So my name is Gillis, and I work at a digital agency called Teehan+LAX.
What kind of design or what discipline would you say you're in, and how would you define it?
Well, I personally am a little bit post designer right now, so I kind of manage a a that does interaction design, user experience design, product design. But personally, I came up through a interaction design information architecture track. So for the last 10 years, that's sort of where I've come from. And then as I've kind of grown into this new role, I'd say I'd still be doing that kind of stuff, but in a little bit more of a kind of management type of mode, I guess. If that makes sense.
And what do you think the purpose of UX design is in life or business?
Well, I mean, if I can sort of borrow a little bit from what I just talked about, I guess. I mean, I think that the purpose of user experience design is to get people to feel and respond to something in a way that maybe facilitates some sort of behavior or action that you'd like them to take, but that what we're trying to craft is, I guess, both the things that cause them to do that elicit that behavior, as well as the mechanics and the way that they are able to actually, facilitate that, and then sort of the more holistic experience of what it feels like to do that. So I'd say that all of those things, the motivation, the actual transaction or action, and then the experiential stuff are sort of all wrapped up together in that.
And how has the digital revolution changed that discipline?
Well, I mean, it's for me. I grew up. I'm 36 years old, so I grew up in a world where computers, personal computing, was just coming on the scene. And I had the opportunity to play with computers from a young age, and so I don't know that I don't have the perspective of what it was like before that. But I'd say that because things were just starting to get started when I was young, there was this. It was, I think, different than it is now, in the sense that computers were still kind of crude enough and simple enough that you can kind of see what was going on just by watching them and listening to them and using them. You can kind of understand what they were doing. They were magical, but at the same time sort of crude, right? So I'd say that in that initial kind of those initial moments for me when I was younger, forming my interests and stuff, there was a sense of this could be anything that we just want it to be, right? And I think that has both been really kind of inspiring and motivating for a lot of designers who sort of see this new set of media that we can kind of work in as this open space and kind of to explore and play. And I think it's also maybe a little bit unnerving and stressful too, maybe because we don't have this legacy that we directly can translate into our work. I mean, this has been around for about 30 years, this kind of stuff that we're working in, the media of it. And so I think it can be a little bit, like I say, a little bit stressful, a little bit challenging, because like I kind of mentioned in the talk, there's sort of a sense of, do we really know what we're doing? Like, are we just kind of, making this up, and is this real? Is this a real discipline that we figured out, or do we have a long way to go? And of course, there's all kinds of traditions and sources of inspiration that date back before computing, personal computing, at least in the way that it is now, that we can draw on. And I tried to touch on some of those too, but I think there is this kind of dual nature of excitement for unlimited possibility and maybe a little bit of anxiety about, do we really know what we're doing?
Do you consider yourself a digitalist?
Like I said, I grew up as a little bit of a digital native person, so I did grow up in a world where computers were part of my experience, and so I would, I guess, say yes. I mean, I do like to draw and sketch and be creative in other, kind of ways, but I would say that computing has always kind of captured my imagination, and in terms of my career and stuff, it's always been like a really important part. So I don't know exactly what that term means, but I would say that I'm very kind of digital focused, for better or for worse, in terms of my interests and experience and passion and so on.
If you could change one thing about your discipline, what would it be?
Well, I think that I guess for at least the stuff that we do, we sort of come from a very kind of rational place. We've always been interested in building platforms and things that are more rooted in utility and functionality and so on. And I think that where we need to, where I personally, or we maybe need to grow and evolve is in finding ways to sort of evolve out of this hyper-rationalist and very functional kind of way of designing. I feel like what we're good at and what we like to do in our comfort zone is really around sort of puzzle solving, interaction design challenges. And I think that we can sometimes miss the entire point of some of those larger things I mentioned at the beginning around the kind of subjective, qualitative, emotional, social elements of the experience, because we're so busy focusing on these hyper-rational problems and puzzles to solve. And so I think that's a place where we need to grow and evolve, and sort of open ourselves up to other kinds of influences and basically take time out of our busy process where we have an unlimited number of these puzzles to solve, and sort of discipline ourselves to focus on other things that are a bit broader and a bit deeper and tie into our human experience more deeply.
Thank you.
Cool.